You're listening to Open for Discussion, where, man, y'all probably shouldn't have said that. It tends to happen. Let's start the show.
715 East Music Group.
Welcome to Open for Discussion, where any and everything is on the table. I got my brothers from another mother with me. I got my boy, a.k.a. Diddy, Ro, everything else.
Yes, I passe.
Okay, that's that Haitian, that's a Haitian love, man. You know, wifey, represent.
All right.
I got my boy Cleet the Geek.
What it do?
And my boy G Dub.
Yo.
How's everybody doing, man? We still alive, so we still here, so that's always a great thing.
Wow, man. You start off that way, bro.
So morbid.
No, man. It's not morbid, man. It's a lot of people that didn't wake up today.
Yo, you're right.
So I'm always, every day that I wake up, boy, I'm excited.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. So what's popping off in y'all lives right now, man?
That's such a general question.
Man, life is good, man.
That's it, man. That's all I need, man. You know what I mean? Sometimes, listen, man, we as men, we need to start talking more, man. We have issues, man, and then we don't discuss it. And so we just internalize it, man. And then next thing you know, we in the middle of a street in Walmart fighting somebody.
Oh, man. Yeah,
Okay.
That's why I don't shop at Walmart.
yeah man. Grocery pickup, brother. Grocery pickup.
Well, this is actually interesting. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about a married couple, about our discussion regarding girls' trips and guys' trips.
The podcast.
Yeah, and initially they were like, well, no, I want my husband to go on the guy's trip. And then I explained why we don't. And all of a sudden the husband was like, I don't want to go on no guy's trips. He's like, why would I want to do that? He was like, I'm with him. At the end of the night, I'm going to want to go back to somebody. And he's like, nah.
Same thing, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But initially she was saying, I want him to have time to spend with some friends or whatever. And just like, because she takes girls' trips. And he's fine with that.
Okay.
So he was like, I wanted my husband to have
open marriage, huh?
Wow, man. Jeez.
Hey, who are the people?
You took it down,
Do we know who are the people?
I
just
can't
play,
reveal
man.
them. I don't want to.
Did y'all talk in some type of confidence?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So was that explicitly stated at the beginning of the conversation? This
And I wasn't
conversation
gonna share
is in
who the
confidence.
No. That we wouldn't talk about who the person is that had the.
Y'all stated that in the conversation.
Yes, we
This is
stated
somebody
that.
at your job?
Oh, okay. So yeah, we gotta respect that.
Yeah. But honestly, it was just funny to come out and get to the point where they were like, the dude was just like thinking, because he never really wanted to go. He just couldn't articulate why.
Yeah.
When we started talking about it, it was like, well, that's it. Like, I don't want to be, and it's funny. He said the same comment, I think, Albert said about, I don't want to be sleeping in the bed and end up having somebody's feet rub up against me.
Absolutely.
That's a total violation. Got to go to jail for the rest of your life for that. Oh.
But just showing you how the podcast is impacting the world.
Oh, that's good, brother.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, who are the people?
Now, Brian doesn't believe in anonymity, man.
Wow.
Says the person who released everybody first, middle, and last name. And occupation. And employment.
Listen, no,
Social Security number.
Cleet revealed where you were working. Y'all had
When did I do that?
It was an older podcast when he was like, he's in insurance, and then he was like, you did say that.
Why he trying to deflect on you?
Yeah, man. Wow, man.
Listen, man, I told you before, Brian is a habitual liar, man. This guy would just make up stuff on the fly and look at you and just smile like he did nothing wrong.
Hey, man, I can't
Says the person who just made up an entire segment of Cleet disclosing somebody's occupation. When everybody had clearly known it.
Now, Cleet, you taking the bait.
Yeah.
You're taking the bait.
That's my boy, man. I know what he talking about. Come on.
Okay.
Y'all.
Okay, what we
You got a group of idiots, man. Just a full group of idiots.
What are we doing right now?
We're falling off the rails, guys. Either way, man, that's always fun, man. We have a good time together, man. You can tell we've been around each other for a little hot minute. And every last one of us in here have, we all got jets, man. We all have kids, and we raise them to the best of our abilities. And we definitely nowadays, the challenges are different. I'm not, I think we talked about it before in an older podcast, but the challenges are different. I wouldn't say that they're tougher, but we make the best of it. But that life happens and things happen. Hopefully none of us ever have to experience any type of letdown, from our kids. But we know, at some point you may feel like you were let down, but they may not. So, it is what it is. But do you guys have a particular moment in your life where you felt like you just completely let your family down and, it kind of, you actually had to sit down and reflect and think about what you did?
It's heavy.
That is heavy for.
When you say family, you mean like, our immediate family or the, greater family as a whole?
Not your family that you have now. When I'm sorry, I messed up that question. When I say let down your family, meaning as your younger self, before you matured into who we are today, can you remember a time in your childhood when your parents were thinking about the same thing that I'm thinking about now, of raising my child the right way? Do you remember a time where you completely felt like you just let your family down? And like I said, your parents, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, whoever was taking care of you at that time, or whoever was showing you the most love as a child, and then you just know that you just hurt them and you just let them down.
You mean like years 11 through 18?
Yeah,
Just
before you got to your family.
I was just saying, like,
before you created your family.
Oh, you trying to read college out of it? We don't want to talk about college.
No, man, it's whatever your moment is, wherever you felt like, you know what, I messed up. And
go ahead, you lead the way, Bert, since you had time to think about this.
Oh man, I've already told y'all my story, but when I think it was off the air though. I was semi dating a young girl. We were in high school. So when I say young girl,
well, you gotta specify these days.
Definitely, bro.
I was
Go
dating
ahead, clean
a girl.
that up.
I was dating a girl.
They got cleats, boy. By the way, did you see?
Yeah.
They got cleats. Boy.
I need to put that shirt back up. Huh? Wait, I need to put that shirt.
They
back
got
up.
Robert.
Oh, Robert.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't drop by 20 tapes on Buddy. Ooh.
Oh man,
They about to throw away the key. On Robert.
that guy.
He's innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely 100%.
If he's guilty, I'm gonna put a shirt in every color.
I just know that.
You make sure you print up one for Weinstein and there's other Epstein.
Takes on a whole different story.
No, I ain't gonna do that.
Bill Cosby. So the I just thought that was real funny. They got this dude. The FBI actually has evidence.
There's.
I was like, oh man.
Listen, man, I'm still taking the Dave Chappelle method right now.
Right.
Did you see it? Were you there? I plead the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, field.
I love that guy.
No, you all good, man.
Go ahead.
But yeah, as I was saying, man, me and this girl was dating, and it was just for a brief moment at that time, and she called me over to the house. We were hanging out. Her parents were there. Everything was fine. It was nothing like that. But as it was time for me to go home, she was just like, when a girl be like, no, just stay.
Right.
You'd be like, I'm like, oh yeah, I just stay a couple more minutes. And man, next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock. I'm supposed to be home at like 9 p.m. So it's 11 o'clock. Then next thing you know, it's 12 o'clock. Her parents done went to bed. And she was like, just stay the night. So at that time, I'm such an idiot. I'm just like,
high school.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll just stay the night. I just make up something when I get home, and then I will be all right. Man.
Wow.
Next day, now mind you, we in the room, and we ain't even do nothing. So that was the dumb part. That was the first dumb part. So I'm in the room, and then we hit. It hits now. It's like 7 a.m. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna just go ahead and roll up out of here and get to my crib. Negative.
It was a weekday. It was
a weekday. It was like it was a Sunday night.
Okay.
And so school was on Monday morning.
Yeah.
So so I'm like, man, I'm just gonna roll out 7 a.m. I go to the house, and I figure it out. Negative. Pops was just walking around her house. So I'm like, okay, what time he go to work? And she was like, he's gonna go to work.
So they didn't even know. Oh.
No, they didn't know. I'm in the room, man. I've been in the closet.
I'm like, is he one of those open parents? Like,
no,
okay,
man.
Cool. Wow.
They knew I was there, but they thought I was leaving when they went to bed.
Right.
And so what happened after that is, so now it's like 7, so I'm supposed to be at school already. And because school started at that time at 7:55. So her pops is just walking around, so I can't walk out of the room. So I'm in the.
Did she leave or she?
Absolutely.
So you
No,
in your house by
absolutely.
yourself?
No, she was like, just stay in the closet. Just stay in the closet.
What?
And I'm like, she was like, he's gonna leave at like 8 o'clock, so then you can come out. Pops ain't leave at all.
He stayed home.
His guy decided to stay home from work. No, the thing about it,
Did you have that sinking feeling in your stomach?
I just knew. I was like, man, I'm gonna get shot.
Oh, man,
I'm finna die today. Dog, and then it was old school because they had the bars on the window, so I couldn't even
you can't go out the window.
I can't even run out the window.
You got this is a book. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm ready. What's next?
No, and so now I'm hearing people come to the door. My dad, he already knew where she lived, and so I got his second car. So he comes.
It's outside?
It's outside.
Jesus.
So he comes to the house. He knocks on the door. He says, "Hey, is my son here?" And he was like, "No, he left last night." So he was like, "Okay." Now my dad took the car.
So wait, somebody dropped him off?
No, I think my sister, my older sister, drove him to the house, and then he took the car and took it home.
Because he didn't know where you were.
Yeah. So he was. My dad was like, okay, so he's not in there. All right. So I'm gonna just, he took the car, and so at I say probably about 9:45, 10 o'clock in the morning, I hear somebody else knock on the door. It's my best friend at the time. It's one of my best friends at the time. It's this dude named Trollis, and so he knocks on the door, and he was like, "Hey, I was just trying to see if you have you seen Al?"
So you can hear all of this from
I
the
can
room.
hear it because her bedroom door is just like where we are right now.
In the front.
It's a window, and then the door is right to the left.
Yeah.
So he comes in, he was like, "No, I haven't seen him. I'll ask her when she gets home." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So dog, this dude didn't leave until like 4 o'clock that afternoon.
Golly.
Well, you was trapped in the closet, huh?
I was trapped the whole time.
What were you doing, bro?
I'm just sitting in the closet, dog. I gotta go to the bathroom. I can't do anything. I'm just sitting there. I'm just hearing him walk around the house, and I'm like, man, I heard him hit the doorknob. Dog, I almost peed on myself. This is over. And so, man, he finally left. And now, mind you, mom's been gone since like 7 a.m. So she was supposed to be coming home at about 5. So I'm like, man, I got a 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock window for me to get out of here. And so finally he left, and I walked out the front door. Now the car was gone. It's like 8 to 10 miles back to my house, man. I had to foot it, dog. I footed it, dog.
Bro, I can't top this.
No money for bus, nothing like that?
I footed it, dog. No, it wasn't no buses, man. We in Palm Bay.
Oh, well, sorry, man.
I footed it the whole way. And so when I get to the house, dog.
Bro, you should have messed up your clothes or something.
Listen, I get to the house, it's 22 cars in the driveway.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long did it take you to go like 10 miles? Because you got out the house at 4.
It took me probably about a good 4 and a half hours, 4 or 5 hours.
All right, so 5 hours. We're at 10 o'clock at night, right?
Oh, yeah. It's 10 o'clock. It's about 10 o'clock at night, dog. I pull up to the house.
And so you walked up to the house.
Dog, I'm pulling my feet at this time, dog. I'm just trying to get there. So I walk up to the house, man, and I just see it. I'm like, man, there's so many people here. What is going on? I was like, man, did we have a party or something? I forgot. Dog, I get in the house, everybody on my dad's side, every auntie on my dad's side, every auntie and uncle on my mom's side, my grandma, everybody in the house, and they just crying. And I'm just like, oh man, I got drugged when I was.
Bro, this gotta be the best line of all time, bro.
That's the only thing I think of. I was like, man, I got drugged, and I can't remember what happened, and I don't know where I was. That's what you said. Nah, my mom took me straight to the emergency room. She was like, okay. Oh, yeah, we gonna get. I'm like,
goodness.
Oh, man.
Terrible.
Oh, man. No, I felt horrible, man. And then my dad.
So you had the emergency room bill, too?
No, straight up.
Oh, man.
Straight up, man.
Oh my!
My mom was like, look, we're going to make sure ain't nothing in there. Bloodstream clean as ever, dog. I was like, oh, it must have been something that wore off fast. I'm telling you, my man. I'm telling you, that's what happened.
Who did you say did it?
No, I just said some guys that we were hanging out with, and then they gave us something to drink, and I just started getting dizzy, and then next thing I know, I was just walking home. It's like I could just see the sheer disappointment in my mom's face. So like the next day, my dad was like, "Come on, son." So he took me with him to the store, and he was just like, I know what you did. I know why you did it. He said, but you just your mom can't deal with that. Your mom can't take that. I was like, dang,
they knew you was lying. They was like,
straight up. My dad knew everything, man. And my stupid friends, man. Phil, y'all know Phil.
Yeah.
Phil and my boy Trolley, man. These cats done wrote on milk jugs. Talking about
have you seen it?
Because Trolley knew where I was. Man. Once he got to the house, he was like,
this dude probably still ain't there.
And the girl probably told him too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah, man, at that moment I was like, dang it, boy, I'm pretty stupid. I just almost ruined an entire family.
Bro, listen, that tops anything I could tell. Bro.
Yeah, maybe you should have went last, bro. I got.
All right, what's the next question?
I ain't got nothing on that.
I got nothing, bro. Literally.
No, man, feel free, man. It's all good. You don't got to top the story, man.
Listen,
just
bro.
your personal story, man.
Look, man.
Well, I once had to go to summer school.
Yeah, I was on punishment.
That was unacceptable in my house.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about my report card, but it seems kind of dumb at this point. Jeez.
Bro, that's a book, bro. I was captivated, bro.
That was good, man.
No, that's a true story, man. Phil can tell you. If my boy Trollers, they'll tell you, man. That was just a very stupid moment, man. It was just like, and then you know, man, when we get rolling, we start justifying what we doing. It'd be like, oh yeah, I can work this out. I can get over this.
Yo, you start believing your lie.
Yeah. At that point, dog, it was like
You got to go all in.
Yeah,
you gotta go all in.
If you don't believe your lie, you're doomed from the very beginning.
First of all, it's a lie. So you already know that you're telling the story. So you got to convince yourself that, man, all of this stuff happened. This is all right.
I know there's nothing in my bloodstream right now, but I was drugged.
Oh, absolutely.
Something was there.
No, listen,
Believe me. Believe me.
my feet were swollen. So I was like, look, man, I don't know what it was, but it just made me pass out.
It just drained out of my body on the way here.
Sometimes they have drugs that it only lasts 24 hours. So I think that's what it was.
Tell me, Brett, did you ever tell your brothers and sisters?
Absolutely not.
So they just found out.
Just kept it. What did the girl say? Like when you finally told her the story, like
who?
You never told her what happened? The girl that you were at her house.
Yeah. She knew. She knew the whole time because she had to leave me.
Yeah, she knew where he was at.
But I'm saying, did she know you stayed there that long?
Yes. She knew that. She knew that.
They didn't have no phones.
Because when she came home, I didn't put that part in the story, but she got out of school, and so she came home, and she realized her dad was still there. So she never even came back in the room. She just kept trying to get him to leave and go somewhere.
Wow.
And so, we ain't have cell phones.
I was about to say, school should have been out by then.
Yeah, we ain't have cell phones.
So she was at the house for the
2-something.
Yeah, since around 2.
Yeah. So she was just like,
bro, y'all could have made a dip for it, man. She could have distracted the dude.
Absolutely not.
Bro,
sitting in the
you gotta
front
get
room.
him out the house, bro. You gotta get him out.
Bro,
the house,
look. If the house
take me
was
to the-
right by the door, all she has to do is say, this dude just went in the bathroom. At some point, he went in the bathroom.
No. So you got to understand the way it was set up. The window is by the door, but the window is by the front door, but the bedroom door is down the hallway. So you got to cross.
So the window's here.
You got to cross
the
the
door's over there.
you got to cross the front room where he's sitting the entire day. And I mean, I'm like, this dude is a robot.
Just throwing back a 6-pack.
This dude is a robot. He never goes to the bathroom.
I guarantee, dude had to go to the bathroom a few times.
You should have just rushed.
It don't matter, man.
You should have just rushed him, bro.
You don't
do
take
not
that
test
chance,
that.
man.
Yeah, you wait till
you
you leave.
You don't take that chance.
I haven't
Bro,
been
you should have right out the room. Toggled him, bro.
Intruder!
You're a football player, bro. You should have toggled him, bro.
Nah,
They tell you he's a DB, bro.
Yeah,
on,
listen, man. This man is an island dude, and I don't know what kind of machetes. And
Yeah, you was gonna get hurt, bro.
Thought you were way.
yeah, you got that island strip, boy. Just be like, huh? What you doing, young man?
I mean, I've been in situations where I had to escape before, and like I've almost always like making the run for it. This sounds like I've been doing this a long time. This is really bad. Almost always in the situation.
Who are you guys?
It wasn't for me. It wasn't a girl's house. It was just someplace I wasn't supposed to be. Making a run for it is gotta be your best bet, man. I couldn't have did it. I would have made a run for it by about like noon. I would have been out.
You didn't get shot. That's what you happened.
Yeah, bro. I got caught trying to make a run for it, bro.
That is terrible.
Yeah, bro. I wasn't the leader. So, anyway, some little backstory. It was one of my older relatives. He liked this particular girl. This girl was seeing another dude, and it was during summer break. And so the dude and the girl were in the house together. And my older cousin was like, "Hey, we gonna go in and we gonna pretty much mess them up so they can't do nothing." So we climbed in through the back window in the house. It was 4 of us.
Thought y'all broke in?
The window was halfway open, so we just lifted the window up. And,
No, we didn't break in.
my older sibling, he
let
didn't want him to
ourselves
do
in.
nothing. He didn't want him to be able to do nothing, right? So they were in a bedroom, so we sneak in and we kind of like banged on the bedroom door that they were in, and then we were gonna try to run out. I tripped. I'm in the hallway. As I'm trying to get up, I just feel a chokehold squeal around my neck. Dude is like 17, and he's like, and so I'm like, I can't breathe. Everybody else is out the window.
Dong.
Like this dude, he could have, and he was a legit bully in the neighborhood too. He was choking me out. He was like, "Tell your cousin to come back in. Don't tell him I caught you. Tell him to come." He was gonna beat the brakes off my cousin. He was like, "Don't tell him I want him back in. Just tell him to come back in." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah. Whatever you say, buddy.
Whatever it takes to live.
So he let me go. I ran out. They were like, "What happened?" I was like, "Nothing, man. I just tripped." And, of course, I ain't tell my relative to go back in. I knew this dude would have.
Yeah, man. You don't send your family back to
That's
the
a
slaughter.
It wouldn't even been pretty, man.
What
Damn,
you should have jumped on your relative, man. Because we're like, listen, bro, you knew we couldn't take this dude. You already knew we couldn't take this dude.
You can't even take him. He got us three, and we like 4-5 years younger than him. We doing his dirty work.
Man.
He sent you in for the giddy up, man.
Wow,
That's
bad getting caught, bro.
That's yeah, can't get caught, man.
All right. I can't. Like I said, man.
Could you never jumped out any windows, man?
Oh, I got a window story.
Man.
I gotta find a way to say it for the Saints.
To protect those,
No, that's not to protect anybody.
protect yourself.
It's to cover somebody. Yeah. So I guess my biggest one, it was I'm senior year, high school, and I'm at this time I started. So 10th grade is when I got saved. So I was going to this one church down in Miami, and I joined a church that's new to me. So I was all the way in, spent a lot of time there, with all the events, all the kind of stuff. And, it got to a point around my senior year where, it was, so let me give a little backstory. I was standing with my dad at this time. So it was just me and my dad and my brother, who's born on the same day, same year, we'll talk about it another time.
Goodness gracious.
We were, he would come over on the weekends, come over some weeks, but, it was mainly just me and my dad. So, my dad was fine when I first joined the church. Everything was good. And then we got to senior year and started having a discussion about going to college or going to the Air Force, going to the military. We had a chance to choose whichever one. I chose Air Force because it was more of a thing. When I was in 10th grade, he's like, "You're doing this. You're going to the military."
You was an ROTC?
Nah, I wasn't even ROTC. It was just like you're gonna. Yeah. When you get there, you're gonna make that decision. And at the time, I'm like, man, nah, I want to go to college. I'm, peer pressure, right? Everybody else going to college. I'm the only one gonna go to military. No, but that's my dad, so I had to, listen to what he's saying. So. 10th grade, 11th grade, spending time in this church. Then I get to 12th grade, and now, I'm starting to feel myself a little bit more. I'm like, I can make decisions. I know what I want to do. So
got
now
a little hell on your chest.
Yeah. So now I start, I start talking back more than I ever talked back. I was always just like, yes, sir, whatever, yes.
Well, did you go to a bougie white high school?
What? What's the relevance? Yeah, man.
I knew it. Don't just change like that.
Hey, listen, man.
He had me at that school too, man. So.
Different households, man. When you start seeing different cultures, and you see your
try
friends,
to bring that thing
home.
You be like, hold on, man. Yeah. You can talk back to your parents.
So good question. That's a good question. So first, he actually did think it was influence from the school, but once he realized that, it was also influence from the church. And the church wasn't negative. They were just saying, go for what you believe in for. Go for your dreams. Yeah. So I wanted to go to college. I don't want to go to the military. So now I'm emboldened. I'm listening to the word of God on, pursuing what you really want to do. And I'm like, Dad, no, that's your dream for me kind of conversation.
They didn't tell you how to properly navigate that conversation.
Yeah.
Did you tell them, I don't want your life?
I don't want your life.
Bro, that's exactly what I was going through, man. So I'm like, so it started my senior year, a little bit of 11th grade year, definitely the whole senior year, man. Every time the topic comes up, knockdown argument, and, I'm like, obviously, if you meet my dad, that's not someone you argue with. So it wasn't really an argument. I was just like not compliant. Normally I'd be like, yes, sir, I'm doing it. But now I'm like, okay. He's like, well, what does that mean? It means okay. And then I just got more emboldened as the time went on. So now we skip to did I graduate? I can't remember, but I know it's towards the end of my in almost graduating high school, or I've already graduated. I can't remember. So I'm still at the church. Now he's at a point where he's like, yo, you're not listening to me. That church is influencing you, man. You need to, I know what's best for you. I raised you, all this stuff. I spend money on you, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, all right, Dad, I hear you, but this is what I want to do in my life. We going back and forth. So it boils down to now he's, dang, I got to tell the whole story. So he's like, yo, I need to go talk to that pastor. So my dad's
talk to a pastor.
so my dad's like, yo, set up, when you set up a meeting, I need to talk to him. And my brother, the one the same age as me, same year, he also was attending the church. Mm-hmm. So he had a meeting with the four of us, the pastor, the pastor of the church, my dad, my brother, and me. So we're sitting at the table. It's like a what do you call it? A table like this. I don't want to say thin table. A slim table like this, right? So me and my brother are across from each other. My dad is sitting next to my brother, and then the pastor is like standing up.
Right.
So he's talking, and the whole time, my dad he's like, he comes in the room and he's like, he actually don't take control of the room. He's not that. He's kind of like quiet, but then once he talks, he try to like control.
Yeah.
Right? So this whole time, he's just sitting there and staring into the abyss. And I'm like, I've never seen him like this. What is going on?
Staring into the abyss.
Normally when you're in a room with another man, he's like talking, engaged, dominating, kind of. Yeah. And he's not even looking at the pastor. And then the pastor's like, dude, bro, this is like a movie, bro. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my brother. I'm like, man, this is crazy, man. Like, we kind of like mouthing stuff. I'm like, what's going on? So the pastor walking around, he's like, I'm more of a father to them than you are.
Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Jesus Christ, bro. This guy.
What? I don't care what man you are.
Man.
Oh boy.
Lord have mercy, bro. My heart dropped to my toes, bro. I say I can't. Why would you say that to this guy of all people?
You don't say that.
Listen. If he wasn't, if he wasn't a man of God, my dad would have shot him right there.
Goodness.
My dad is that kind of guy. So my dad, he's staring into the abyss. He says that comment. My dad looks up and like pierces through his life. I'm just like, I look at her. We got to go because I don't know what's going to happen. He said, "Excuse me." Excuse me? He's like, I'm just saying, I'm the spiritual father, I'm an influence, da-da-da. He's like, I can't remember what he said. He just said like one word. He's like, it's best that I leave right now.
Absolutely.
Best that I leave right now before anything else is said.
Hey, that's commendable from your pops, bro. That's
I can't to this day, dude.
Man.
The dude was trying to make a point, but that was the worst thing to say. So
because he was wrong. He was wrong.
Flat out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period.
You don't do that.
I don't care if it was truth.
Yeah,
You
you
don't
don't
say
ever. You especially when the father's here
When he's there
and
in front of
he's here trying to make. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
see if he's an absentee father. No, this dude's here. Why would you even say that? So, but I'm 18 at the time, and I'm just like I did feel like I was like, yo, that's wrong. So I'm like, dang, we kind of stuck in between this because now he think we, because we didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so he leaves. He didn't even leave with us. He just left us. He left us there. So we, I think we got a ride home. Yeah, no, seriously. Then the next morning he gets us up at 6 a.m., takes us to a parking lot. And he was like, y'all let a man say that about you? You don't speak up for your father? And I was just like, dang.
Oh, that's dang.
Yeah, I felt bad, and he was like, I don't want y'all going back to the church. And I'm like, well, Dad, okay, well, that's a lot. Like, I see what you're saying, but that, he's, so I'm in this place, right? I'm invested in the church, been doing a whole bunch of stuff. It was a trip coming up.
Yeah.
And it was like literally the next week. And I'm like, but we got a trip. We're going to go, it's already paid for. Yeah, he's like, I don't want you going back. I'm like, Dad, I hear you, man, but it's not that serious. He's not, everyone else is not reflected in that. I know that comment was wrong. I want to talk to him about it, but come on, he's not budget. He's hurt. He don't want us to go. Needless to say, I still go on a trip.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I'm 18.
You had already justified it in your mind.
Right. I'm like, I'm gonna go. So yeah, so I go to the trip, man. It's a great trip. Come back, walking up, someone dropped me off, so I'm going through my front gate into my yard and walking up. All right, man, yeah, man, great, man. This man, hey, just kind of talking to someone from a distance.
Your heart is pounding, boy.
No, it's not because I didn't think. I didn't think nothing of it. So and then a little backstory. My dad's a firefighter, so there's times where he'll be at the fire station 24 hours. It was one of those days he was at work. So I'm just coming. I'm like, yeah, man, I catch y'all, man. Give him a key. Oh shoot! Okay. What's going on? Hold on. Next key. What? Hey. So I'm like, oh shoot! So I have my cell phone, I have my minutes. So I have some minutes on there. I'm like, hey, Dad, my key not working. He's like, I know. Yeah. So yeah, I know the key don't work. I told you not to go on that trip. Now you finding somewhere to live.
Your daddy a G, bro.
No, I love it,
Bro, so,
straight up.
Bro, so they still like that. They're like, bro, what's going on? I'm like, my dad saved the lot, bro. So then, bro. So all right. So now the whole day, I'm like, it's like a Saturday or something. So I'm like trying to be resourceful. I'm like, all right, man. All right. I had already the whole trip. I was talking about this situation, so I'm like emboldened. So I'm like, man, nah, he ain't gonna treat me like that. Nah, I'm gonna work this out. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I know how I get into my house when the door is locked. So I always keep my window open just in case I leave my key. So I went. I was like, all right, I went to someone from the church. I was like, can I borrow your truck? I'm just gonna grab all my stuff and I'm gonna stay at somebody from the church's house. They're, kind of worked all out in that same day. So I go. I lift my window up. I go inside, unlock the door, and I just start pulling all my clothes out, all the stuff I need. And then, I go and I stay the night at that person's house. So the next morning, my dad would normally get home from the shift of a firefighter like 8:30, 9 o'clock. 9 on the dot. You call him like, okay. Oh, here you go calling me now. So I'm like, hey, hello?
Hey, Dad.
I'm gonna see how I can say this.
You can just you can say explicative.
I'm like, hello? Dad, hello? If you ever stick your explicative head in my explicative window or explicative again, I'll blow it off. Click.
No, at that point, you believe him, man. You just have to believe him.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, talking about my whole life ended right there.
There's no coming back from that, man. You just, what'd your dad say? Man, he just tired, man.
Bro,
we're going to talk about it later. We're going to talk about it later, man.
Bro, listen, bro. It took almost 2 years, bro, for us to kind of get to a place where we're talking and stuff. And, you know, once the kids came, marriage came, all that stuff, we're a phenomenal place now. But, dude.
Hey, boy, you disrespected that man. First of all, you disobeyed his orders. Then you violated
Listen. Wait a second.
I called him later. I was like, I'm your son, man. I was crying. I was like,
let's not justify this.
All right, guys. So
look like these guys are just like,
if you go blow the head off, bro, we cannot justify that statement. Okay, we can justify the anger. We can justify being upset and feeling disrespected. It wasn't even.
Imagine that coming from your dad.
And it's not even saying I'll blow your head off, because that's something in and of itself.
Yeah.
If you beep 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 in my beep beep beep, then I'm a beep beep. I'm like,
straight up
to your son.
Listen,
He
man.
broke in the man's house. You cannot break in somebody's house.
You're a
This
grown
guy
man
right
at
here,
You
that
can't
time.
break in his house. But before you said that, I'm like, I know what his dad gonna say, because that's what my dad would have been like. You broke in my house? Yeah, straight up. If I done kicked you out, you no longer welcome. Do not
man.
break. Yeah, I knew that's where that one was going. But
Hey, listen, man.
But he didn't mean that though.
You committed a crime, dog. You committed a crime.
you haven't met Mr. Gubbs.
I met him. He didn't mean it. I'm just saying that for the. He didn't mean it.
Oh man,
Just to be an advocate for him, man.
Listen, I understand,
just
man.
said
He
it,
was
but-
hurt. Like I said, I'm grown now. I can see back then I didn't understand. Now I'm like, okay,
Yeah, man.
Someone tell you that, especially when you're a father that cared and you've been there, and someone that they don't know you,
Yeah.
and tell you I'm more of a father to you. Like, dude, you ain't changed my Pampers. You ain't,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You ain't
but
feed
he
me when
looking-
I was helpless.
He looking at y'all like,
Yeah.
y'all gonna say something?
Yeah, dude.
y'all could have at least just said, well, wait a minute now.
Right.
You know, I respect
Seriously.
you, and I know what you're trying to say, but you're saying it in the wrong way. So,
Yeah,
know.
yeah. No, I get it, man. Like I said, you know, looking back at it, yeah, I definitely had some onus in that whole situation. So, you know, I'm not like, oh man, my dad tripping, but you know, he did kind of threaten me in
yeah, no.
That's a little bit.
very gruesome way,
He
man.
did,
Jesus
threaten,
Christ.
murder.
You didn't try to break back in the house though, did you?
I did.
Hey, you learned a lesson.
At that point, I became a regular guy on the street. Then
Exactly.
Your life instantly changed, dog.
so hey, man. So yeah, that's my story. You know.
That's good, man. See that was completely funny, dog. You know, like you thought you were really doing the right thing,
Dude.
You're like, nah, I'm gonna just go on this trip, and I don't care what my dad says. Hey, guys.
Bro,
telling you, boy,
I
that's what
remember,
I
bro. I was laughing. Dude was telling the joke. I'm like, yeah, man.
No, in your mind,
shoot.
you thought you were doing the right thing.
I did.
I'm telling you, you would trick yourself into justifying what you're doing and think that, you know, man, I'll be able to work it out once I get home.
It's immaturity, man.
Straight
you know,
up.
you
That's
think
what
you
I
got
said,
stuff
man.
figured out, and
you start
what?
thinking about it, man. You be like, man, I did some crazy stuff. Then you start thinking about the kids that you have, and you be like,
Yeah, that's what
Oh, my gosh.
I'm looking forward to, but I'm not looking forward to at the same
imagine
time.
somebody telling me they're more of a parent to me than my.
listen, my demeanor right now,
I gotta, like you said, I gotta commend them for just walking out.
Yeah, man.
to be able to just get up and walk out on that.
Good. That's good.
Hey, man, well, speaking of Cleat breaking into houses,
Oh,
Okay.
Well, I would top to the
That's
closet. No, no.
He did break into the house, man, which was a crime.
Oh my God!
All Bert did was come out the closet.
I was just stuck in the house.
So wait, if the police would have showed up in your situation, and clean situation, they would have did the same result.
No, man. I was invited in. I just ended up staying over my welcome.
Okay.
So I actually didn't commit a crime.
Yeah. It'd have been tough for you to prove that you were invited in at that point, sir.
I could at least show that I lived there. A picture on the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, bro, you 18?
Yeah, I still have.
Nah, bro,
you're a grown man.
You're a grown man.
You're a grown man, dog.
And your daddy changed the locks, and he's a public servant.
Oh, man.
Yeah, bro, you had
You can't do that if he was living there, right? So if he's had like certain history living there, you can't just kick a person out.
That's a tenant landlord rights.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's for spouse and family too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's basically a law preventing you from just like kind of kicking somebody to the curb and not giving them, and they have nothing.
Yeah,
I think the
there was a
standard is like
famous
14,
case.
15 days or something like that.
Yeah.
I guarantee they would not have enforced that.
Not at that moment.
Because
They
he's
would
black.
have made me leave.
Black people don't enforce that. You get disrespectful in your parents' house. Yeah, well, it's law. You can't kick me out.
Black people don't know
Get
about
out.
that. To be honest, I didn't find out until it was a friend of mine who got his JD, and he was telling me about one of the cases in his class. He was like, "Bro, let me tell you about this test that I just took," and I didn't get the answer right. He was like, "Do you know if a person is a husband and spouse, and you have been living with them for a substantial amount of time, that even if you break up, you can't just kick them out?"
Yeah, I knew that in husband and wife. I definitely knew
Well,
that. Yeah,
I mean,
knew that
even
in
domestic partnerships, right?
Yeah.
So you don't even have to
Yeah.
be married, which speaks to somebody that we know trying to get rid of somebody in their house. But you can't you can't just kick them out.
Go ahead and man, don't bring it up, man. If you, let's
no,
talk about it, man.
Yeah, who is
I
it?
just want
Let's
to
talk
come
about
in.
it, man. Who is that, man?
I can't tell you.
That way we can get more insight into the
We want to talk
situation,
about
bro.
it, man.
I'll
We
tell you,
wanna go
buddy.
ahead and see if we can help.
You know the way that you can help. Brian can go ahead and go to FAMU College.
I'm just trying to say, bro,
get
did
that law
y'all talk
degree.
about this in confidence? Did y'all explicitly state, I do not want this disclosed publicly? If that wasn't stated, you good, bro.
You good, dog. Just let it out,
Well, I
man.
tell you.
Just use initials.
When this dude becomes a lawyer, bro,
Listen, bro.
no, listen, he
I
is
have
getting
him on retainer,
everybody off. Everybody's getting off.
this dude on
Okay,
We just asking. We trying to help them out.
Just want to
Bro,
know,
we may
man.
know somebody
Anyway,
in the area that can
Inquiring
assist.
minds want to know, man. We
Yeah.
want to be a big help. You know,
Do you?
right.
Bert's lying. We're going to talk about the people. We all know that. We all know that.
You want new material. That's
But I mean, you can't just kick a person out. You have to give them like a certain amount of time, according to the law, to be able to get them out.
Yeah.
well, law-wise, that ties into last couple of things I want to discuss with you guys. Two big things, and I want to know y'all's stance on it. One is the legalization of marijuana. What's your stance on that? And two, the legalization of prostitution.
This is get heavy.
We're gonna let the lawyer of the group.
Yep.
We want you to take the floor, man.
Go
What's
ahead.
your stance?
What's
on,
your opening statement?
What is your opening statement on legalizing marijuana as well as legalizing prostitution?
Is he on Skype or is she on Skype? Who you talking about?
We're
talking about you.
man.
Oh, I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
I'm not an attorney.
I'm like,
You know what I mean? He go lying again.
This guy is a habitual liar, man.
yeah, man.
So now I'm an attorney. So first I was in insurance. Then I worked at Disney. Now I'm an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
You gotta watch this guy, man.
But anyway,
Counselor.
I hate everyone.
on prostitution, no, that's a big no. Again, morally, man, no, no, absolutely not. I'll never co-sign or consent to.
Should we have morals with legal intertwined?
I don't said morals with energy.
Should we have your morals intertwined with the legalities of something?
So again, my morals really don't predicate what the United States does. I have a position, I have my beliefs, and if given the opportunity to vote, I would vote against it because that's my decision, that's my ability, and so I would not vote to legalize prostitution. Again, I don't believe in sex outside of marriage from a morality standpoint, that's against my beliefs. I have a right to my beliefs, and if you believe it should be, you have a right to your belief. But I believe that prostitution is not something that should be legalized on a moral stance, and there are a ton of other avenues that opens up, and in the sex trafficking, on top of, again, the primary issue, which again is just against my moral beliefs. Marijuana, yes, it absolutely should be legalized, and what I'll say is, as a Christian, everything that's legal is not moral. So just because something is legal doesn't make it moral in my beliefs. So slavery was legal. Didn't make it moral. I will always be against it. Segregation was legal. Doesn't make it moral. So that's me.
Yeah, I mean, I share the same sentiments. I think, or perspective, should I say? For me, yeah, the same thing as far as the prostitution piece. I think if we start to, lose our moral guide as a nation, then we risk opening the door for all of these other things that are immoral. I mean, what is it called? Bestiality? Bestiality, right? So you open the door for something like this, then why not make things like that legal and socially acceptable? Those things, some of these things begin to be detestable just to how we are as human beings, So, you open a door, you start opening yourself to all those other things. So I say no, absolutely not, because like I said, it's a doorway to so many other things that if you find your society engaging in these things and allowing it to be legal, then, it is the demise of the society. As far as marijuana, same perspective. I think it should be legal only from the simple fact that it's not, I don't have to support it so much, but it's a thing that doesn't, there's no, unless y'all can tell me wrong, there's no things that say marijuana is causing people to die like other drugs are. And there, right? And then, and then there's no, I think, when we talk about this minorities situation, I think it's been that type of drug where people have been, mass incarcerated for, when there's far more egregious things in drugs that people aren't getting caught for. So I think allowing it to be legalized, it helps, minorities who have been on the wrong side of, this whole marijuana epidemic, of being arrested for it and all of that. It helps them. It helps that whole society to not be, held down by it anymore. So I'm for it, because I think, it's like people have been getting too much time for something that's not harming people. I mean, cigarettes, cigars and cigarettes were legal. They're still legal. Right. So they've been legal, and marijuana is no different than them in my eyes. So it's like, for all these people to get arrested and, do time for something that's no different than a cigarette or a cigar, it's just egregious. So saying all that to say, I think it should be legalized because it's no different than those other substances. And if a person decides they want to, to use marijuana for whatever they want to use it for, and then that's their prerogative. I don't think it hurts the world. It hurts the society. But that whole other topic about prostitution, yeah, man, that's a slippery slope. You start opening up that door, and then you got to open up. You gotta listen to people who want to open these other doors that I think we would really have issues with as a society. That's my take.
Well, I'm going to take a book or a quote out of a book of the attorney that he said on one of the last shows, that you cannot legislate morality. So on both of these issues, I'm like in the middle. I really don't care what the legislation does, because there are pros and for marijuana, it's already legal in a few states and people are running legitimate businesses and really thriving under those businesses. I think, in the first month of sales, it was like some crazy amount of million that Colorado had right after they legalized it. I've had friends
80 million.
It was crazy. I have a friend who lives in Denver. He was like, you come into the state and you smell a haze. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's like, people are going to want to do what they want to do. The slippery slope, I agree with Clayton, that sentiment that it can go anywhere. But I think we're already on the slippery slope, right? Mm-hmm. So if I had a chance to vote for something, I'm not really sure how I would vote today because I know there's a part of me that says don't do drugs at all, right? Then you're talking about legalizing marijuana. It makes it okay to do drugs. There's a part of me that's like, don't legalize prostitution. It's wrong. But most of this stuff, like if we're talking about the legalization of prostitution, or having an issue with legalization of prostitution, we have to have the same issue with the legalization of alcohol. The legalization of marijuana is in the same thing because they both can be extremely harmful, and they both have legalization of marijuana comes next. Right, that came after cigars and cigarettes, like that were way, way, way back in the day. What's after marijuana? What's next to get legalized? Right, we already have an opium crisis right now in our society, and we know that if the government sees an opportunity to make money, that will be the next opportunity to legalize something. Now, I know that we as black people have been on the challenging end of marijuana convictions, and I don't want them to be in jail because of marijuana possession because it's not as harmful as other drugs, but it is still a drug, right? So it's like, do we want to open the door to drugs to be legalized? We already have, the pharmaceutical industry, which is a $1 billion industry that's legal right now. I just continue to see it like progressing where we're just legalizing stuff just because we want it to. In the Bible, like I gotta go back and research this, but Rahab the harlot, right? Mm-hmm. Like she was a harlot, and I'm not sure that the profession was legal or illegal then, but I think that people will be people and they can still be reached by Christ. I think that we can still get the message to them. I think that they can still transform their lives, and it's an industry that I completely and vehemently disagree with. So let me just put that on record. I don't want anyone to use prostitution or anything like that, especially when you start talking about sex trafficking, and that's a completely another conversation.
Right.
But I really, like, for me personally, I'm like, I would really have to dig deep inside to see how my vote will help the betterment of society, because right now I'm not really seeing a clear lens. I see the other side where it's like, look, we start, like I said, you legalize marijuana, stuff comes next. I know that people, I have a friend who was helping somebody build a marijuana business, and it's like, look, man, it's a business. If people want the product, and they're getting the product. It's just like having a restaurant with a bar now, mm-hmm. right? You're going to say, I got a restaurant and I'm going to sell no alcohol. Well, you're probably not going to make that much money, right? So, and the Bible talks about, what is lawful is not always expedient. So us being believers, like we hold ourselves to a higher standard than the law. So it's hard to be like, okay, well, this is what the law should do for me. So I'm kind of stuck on that issue.
I just want to double back. So one thing I think as Christians we tend to convolute, and that is, or actually we just tend to get wrong, and really societally as well, mm-hmm. is that America is a Christian nation.
Right.
America is a Christian society. We're not. America is not. America's morality has always been this dichotomy of hypocrisy. So again, we can extol that this nation was built on liberty, but at the same time, we had 6 million slaves. Mm-hmm. But it's founded on liberty. How could that be? It's a direct dichotomy. Wait a minute. We're espousing liberty, and at the same time, you've got 6 million people enslaved. And sometimes I think we tend to miss all of the details that slavery entail. Sometimes we can just look at the forced labor, but we look at a lot of legislation and a lot of the iterations of slavery. So in slavery, you had babies being taken from their families, from their mothers. As a slave, you went to sleep at night not knowing if you would wake up in the morning with your family intact. As a man, you were forced to watch your wife being raped by a Christian. By the way, Christians solidified and justified slavery. You sought to justify and delegitimize African or people of African descent. But again, we're Christians, right? We're a Christian nation. Not the case. It's not the case. Americans and a lot of Christians have always sought to justify legislation. So that's why I say just because something is legal does not make it moral. And one thing I've noticed about Christians is that Christians tend to attribute acceptability to laws or to legislation. Follow the law. We obey the law. Well, MLK said, if a law is unjust, I have a moral obligation to stand up against that law.
Right.
Slavery was immoral. Jim Crow was immoral. What we have to acknowledge, and it takes a level of consciousness to realize that America is immoral. Why? Because America is not a nation founded and is not a Christian nation.
Right.
It's not a religious state. This is a country, and you have a group of people who at one point largely identified with Christianity.
Right.
And again, I believe it was a gross misidentification with the religion of Christianity. So saying that, we live in a country, and I am a Christian within a country. So I understand that my dominant beliefs do not predicate this government. They can do whatever they decide to do.
Right.
I have a choice in how I vote. My expectation can't be that everything that I vote for in a quote unquote democratic society will always be enforced. So with that, when they do something that's contrary to my morals, I'm not surprised.
Right.
I'm not surprised. I expect it. Like, I don't expect America to align with my beliefs, because I understand that I am a Christian in a nation, and I am not a Christian nation. So with that, when we say that it's a slippery slope and something is going to be, if we allow marijuana, then we allow, then that opens up the floodgates. It's just a matter of time anyways.
Yeah.
It's just, and like we again, I don't think there has been any greater or more grievous practice in this country than slavery, and again, in all of its iterations. So to act as if we've always been this moral agent is some false history.
Right.
Period. It's a cognitive dissonance that allows us to present ourselves as this gleaming beacon of morality. It's not the case.
Right.
That's not the case. So when you ask me about the legalization of marijuana, legalize it. The only reason it hasn't been that it isn't legal, of course it's gaining more momentum now, was because it couldn't be regulated by the government,
and therefore it couldn't be taxed.
Exactly. Therefore it couldn't be taxed. And secondarily, because it was a propaganda to fuel the incarceration of blacks, and therefore control the narrative of the subservient and the inferior black race. Period. Those were the only reasons. If you look at the prescription pharmacy industry, we give that credibility, but now we have an opioid crisis. Why is it now a crisis?
Yeah.
Why is it now a crisis? Why is it now a crisis?
I don't have that.
So, but the crack epidemic in the 80s wasn't a crisis.
Didn't they? Well, there was, because they had the war on drugs.
They had a war. We're not having a war on opioids. We're not arresting whites.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. So I think.
See, we didn't have a crack crisis. We had a war on drugs, but now we have an opioid crisis. Look at the language. Look at the terminology there is sympathy coming right now.
So I think
for the opioid crisis.
But I don't think the government issues that. I think the media does. Right? I think the media. I mean, the president actually declared the war on drugs. And
Ronald Reagan. Yes.
I was talking to Cleves about this the other day. Like we are shaped almost too much by the media that we consume. Right? Like if you are on one side or the other side, very rarely is a person looking at both sides and then formulating their own opinions, Right?
That's true.
What happens is whatever side that you slant to, you listen to that and you formulate your opinions based on that information, which in all cases is going to put you to one side or the other. So I don't know. I didn't do enough research to find out where opioid crisis came from, but in most cases, I want to look at the media in which it comes from. Like, does it come from? Because there's always an agenda, as I'm sure you'll agree. What's the agenda? Who is promoting it? And like, what's being said on both sides? I'm pretty sure we can agree that the term crisis is probably coming from your conservative side because rich white kids are probably starting to die more from this from these illicit drugs, and therefore they have determined they coined the term crisis, right? But in the early '80s. When we had the war on drugs, before we had that, what was the terminology?
It was a crack epidemic.
Yeah, epidemic.
It was a crack epidemic, and crack cocaine disproportionately impacted urban cities. And we know urban is really a term for black. So predominantly black segments of society were impacted disproportionately by crack. The opioid crisis really gained notoriety and kind of really spearheaded after the Great Recession. And it's a byproduct. And, in the media, government, they would say, well, the Great Recession triggered this great opioid crisis because people didn't know how to cope with the changing landscape. People lost jobs. And now, we have an opioid crisis. Red flag. We've been dealing with crisis since we got here. And now all of a sudden, there is an opioid crisis. And to me, it kind of highlights the paradigm here in America. So, brothers, we've never had the luxury of believing in this myth that if you work hard, you'll be able to, you got a strong back, you'll be able to get this employment at this plant. You work hard, your son graduate high school, you can get him in there. Your grandson come in, he can get him in there. Right. And there is this system to where hey, as long as I'm willing to work, I'm going to make it. All of a sudden, the Great Recession hit. You have people who are willing to work, but all of a sudden, plants are closing. Job opportunities are closing. Well, wait a minute. I thought as long as I had a good back, I'll always be able to find employment. No, that's not the case. It's not the case. And so now how did the white community at large, who's disproportionately affected by this opioid crisis, how did they all of a sudden try and reconcile? They turned to prescription and they turned to these opioids. That's when the epidemic burst. Okay, now, and it was the direct cause of the Great Recession. But again, it was because they were delusional or they had the luxury of living in a state that no longer existed. Now all of a sudden, wait a minute. How can you not justify? Wait a minute. I was told as long as I'm willing to work, I'll always have a job. I'll always be able to support my family. Economy shifted, and that no longer happened. And at large, they weren't able to cope. And if you look at the opioid crisis, it disproportionately affects low income rural areas, and those are largely white dominated demographics in those societies. So now they had a stark reality, and this is how that in studies have shown this is where the heaviest populations are affected. So again, terminology, you got a crack crisis, now you have an opioid, you had a crack epidemic. Crack epidemic, opioid crisis, sympathy for opioids and criminalization of crack. So we've got to be conscious that again, America is the purveyor of a hypocritic morality and in this country. But again, just getting to my chief point, I don't have an expectation of America to be a Christian nation at its essence. Matter of fact, Christians aren't even Christians at their essence in a lot of cases. So I firmly believe that marijuana legalization is going to happen. I believe that we are not going to see this prestigious America that we all espouse in the sense to where we can live in this nostalgic state that we are going to be this beacon of Christianity just because we're not. But as Christians, we still have that obligation to be a light shining in this dark land. So if you want to not, support the legalization of marijuana, go ahead. But again, once it happens, don't be appalled.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, don't just, and we've got to be conscious that just because it's legal doesn't make it expedient, doesn't make it right. So again, I don't have this expectation, and neither should any Christian, that America will walk out our Christian values, because right now the Republican Party is the party of Christian values, yet we see the majority of Christian Americans supporting a hateful, racist Donald Trump. Right. So how can we reconcile that? Matter of fact, this dude just came out with probably arguably the most racist tweet of his entire administration. And I see people justifying it. It wasn't racist. He didn't mean what he said. I mean, again, this goes beyond the fact that we're treating illegal people as, or not, they're not even illegal. People seeking asylum. We're treating them without any compassion, without any love. Come on. But anyway, that's just me.
Hey, man. Good stuff, man.
Yes.
I roll with it. Dub, you have something else you wanted to add, man? I saw you pucker up to the mic there. Like,
No. I mean, I know America isn't moral. It's just
no. But I got a point.
no. I still have internal. That's why I said when I started this topic, it's hard for me because I believe in choice. I know that America is who America is. I want to see the good in voting for these different things. I just don't like today. I don't know how I would vote on either. So sum up my thing with saying that. Cool,
man. I appreciate it, man. I love when we get into these deep topics, man, because it's always good to kind of hear where everybody's head is, and we typically are in agreement on everything. We just see it in different ways.
Oh, so, I got a question. When this was on the ballot in Florida in 2016? The legalization of marijuana. Mm-hmm. Yeah, John Morgan spearheaded that. Yeah. What's the difference between marijuana and oxycodone?
One is natural.
Oxy is prescribed. I mean, that's the only
one is prescribed.
Yeah,
marijuana has been proven to alleviate pain and that's the purpose of an oxycodone.
Yeah.
Alleviate pain. But we accept one, and oxycodone will have you loopy as all get out.
I think
whenever
is,
you have something to say, do not drive,
do not walk, unaccompanied.
I think the reason why oxycodone is legal right now is because, like we talked about, it can be regulated and it's big pharma,
and it's pushed by big pharma.
It is it's huge. You know what I mean? That is a very, very expensive drug, and it's supposed to only be given in certain situations, but doctors are writing scripts left and right,
highly addictive
for stuff like that.
Highly addictive. Extremely. But we don't do marijuana. It alleviates pain, but we'll do oxycodone. Why? Because they say we can.
Oh yeah, they gonna push what they want to push in your face, man. Exactly. And it is what it is.
Just want to make that point. Just want to make that point.
You have to be diligent, man, and understanding for yourself. Figure out what works for you and what works for your family and what works for your beliefs. So for me, my boy Diddy Rowe, my boy Cleet the Geek, my boy G Dub. We out, man.
You